Welcome back to Spotlights, and thank you for staying. Our very first story today, we're looking at the threat of violent extremism and conflicts in the northern region. Earlier in the week, we took a look at the Doba, who are in the Kasana-Nankana municipality. Let's go and take a quick look at that, and then we can get into that discussion.
We Doba women are here today to appeal to the authorities to come to our aid. We need peace in Doba. Doba women need peace because what happened yesterday, we cannot bear it again. People dying and like fowls, and even people are not having time for us. And sometimes we don't know whether there are security men. Women are suffering, children are suffering. We cannot farm. We wanted to farm, we cannot farm. And we can't even trade, we can't move outside. Anytime you are going outside, security people will force us to inside the rooms and be beaten and then doing certain things. I don't know why we are not part of Navrongo. I don't know why we are not part of Ghana. So we are appealing to the authorities to come to our aid, especially the court case. They should speed up. This court case is up to 2 years and we are not hearing anything. We are suffering. We are appealing to the authorities to come to our aid and to see to it that we have peace in Doba and Kandiga. We don't need anything apart from peace. We are appealing to them to come to our aid and help us. That is the most reason why we are here. This is our main place, our main house. We cannot bypass the Navrongo chief. That's why we have come here, so that he will lead us to the district assembly, so that they will hear our voice. They will send our voice to the authorities, so that the leaders will speed up and relocate our security. The security, they are not doing the right thing.
So those were women of Doba in the Kasana-Nankana municipality of the Upper East region, where fresh conflict has erupted. This conflict has been going on for some years. It has its roots in land conflicts, chieftaincy, is a merger of different conflicts, and it keeps recurring. You know, in 2020, you find there were some issues over there, 2021, 2022. It doesn't look like it's going to end soon. I think the update on this is that a lot of the women fled the area and ran into Navrongo, where they said they were going to report the issue to the Navrongo Pio, who's the paramount chief, traditional ruler of the Navrongo traditional area. And Doba falls under the Navrongo traditional area. So they went to report this to the chief. There has not been a real solution to this conflict yet. But let me come to you, Yao. A lot of these conflicts were cited in Ghana's threat for, violent extremism, especially in these areas in northern Ghana, where there's a lot of chieftaincy clashes, a lot of young people unemployed, and so it's very easy for them to, revive these conflicts. It just takes one little thing. Sometimes two people meet in the markets and start fighting. If they are from opposing sides where there's a standing conflict, then it starts all over again. What do you think is going on in these parts?
Okay, all right. Thank you for having me. Just to set the context, the report from West African Center for Counter-Extremism actually made an interesting remark. In terms of vulnerability, it was very clear to suggest to us that the northern Ghana is the most vulnerable part of the country. And as a matter of fact, we know that somewhere around September last year, about 33 people were arrested for having links to extremism. Again, two things, and you asked the fundamental questions. It's a question of conflict, because again, that report told us that about 97% of all extremism happens in places where conflict already exists. And unemployment is one of our most vulnerable indicators. And so the questions of conflict existing already and that of unemployment are valid conversations. For the purposes of the North, I think that it's been underserved so many times.
Underdeveloped,
and I guess
neglected.
the video played, the woman asked if they were not part of Navrongo or not part of Ghana. I mean, we say sometimes in jest that the hungry person is the angry person, but the validity of it cannot be underestimated. If a youth has nothing to lose, has nothing to fight for, the probability that they will stand to fight for something is high. I mean, youth disillusionment is a big threat to us, and the basis of it is that majority of the youth have no skill, have no employment, have nothing useful and productive to put their time to. So channeling it into conflict becomes the easiest thing. I mean, the historicity of some of these conflicts go way back, as you said, but I think that we've come to a place where youth and skill development must be paramount if we want to solve these issues. The problems of chieftaincy, the problems of land conflict, I think it's obvious that the interested parties must resolve them. I know some of the issues are ongoing in court.
We apologize for that interruption in transmission there. We're going to pick up the conversation right where we ended it in a moment, but we'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back to Spotlight. Please stay tuned. We have many discussions coming up.
No topic is off limits. The pain of experiencing a miscarriage is something that can crumple your world. We're talking postpartum bodies and everything in between. And they share their story on their battle with infertility. The touching stories of the African woman rose before you.
I was disappointed in God, in life, in myself.
How many losses have you had?
After that, we had 4 more.
What?
I shouted, I said,
We lost vision, we lost any sound beyond crying.
Our mistakes, advices, regrets, real stories, and more on We Got This Africa. Na Ashako and her intriguing panel serve you real experiences of the African woman. We Got This Africa. We got this.
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine from Ghana Made, and welcome to our series called Find Your Way Back, where I'll be interviewing amazing individuals that have moved back to Ghana from the diaspora.
You have to be willing to take a little bit of a risk,
Yeah.
and be willing to leave some of the comforts behind.
You know, shit was meant to be hot.
Yeah.
But then regardless,
It wasn't hot for you?
it wasn't hot for me.
Okay.
Needed to adapt to the Ghana way of living, but not take that
From them.
exactly.
It's such a beautiful
It
country.
is.
Our people are so beautiful.
Your Saturday nights just got better.
With unimaginable excitement.
Then toes one girl make it touch it, touch it, touch it, touch it, touch it. Ow, ow, yeah.
The most heated rap battles.
Squad for the work claim soldiers, but on your campo, Bema.
I blow you menace ready, it be me with the top. Godzilla self chop, who be King Kong.
And of course, your A-list celebrity interviews.
I've always said this though, there can only be one Bob Marley, so definitely there should be one episode.
Me? The threesome.
Orafu akomedi womunede. Yeah. Nyansa, don't fuck. Lighter.
With myself, Oforiwa.
I'm Jason Alay, and I do this with the man,
DJ Varosky. Why the party there today? Hey mama, hey, I ever say.
All women were created differently with unique attributes. From managing a home to being entrepreneurs, through the ups and downs, we almost always win.
As I said, in the early stages of breastfeeding, what your body is using to make the milk is what you ate during pregnancy.
Adoption is a blessing. So if you want to adopt, it's a good thing to do, but just make sure that you do it in the right way.
The brand new season of the Talkative Mom Show is double the education, double the information, and excitement.
And then I actually realized nobody cares. Yes, nobody cares.
Yeah. Join me, Eno Kragrin, and my guests this and every Sunday on MX24.
The Talkative Mom Show is proudly supported by Gokul's Healthy Options and Cerelac.
Many apologies there for the break in transmission. The truth is that we had a power outage, so blame it on ECG, but we're back. Thank you for staying. Let's just continue from, let's go back to the Doba people in the Katsina Nankana municipality. You were weighing on that.
Right, so the point I was trying to make is that the issues of unemployment and conflict existing points to the vulnerability of the police. And as we've been told, vulnerability in terms of assessment of Ghana in counter-extremism, we know that the northern part of Ghana is the most vulnerable place. It's time that we pay attention to areas of low unemployment, areas of extreme poverty, because then that increases youth disillusionment, which connects to the ability for people to pick arms and to engage in extreme behaviors. Again, just to round up, I think that the launch of the See Something, Say Something, it's perhaps a good start, but we need to move beyond that. We need to move beyond the training into really engaging people at the micro level, and hear them, hear what would motivate them, build workshops around communities with those, hear the interested parties, bring all stakeholders into fruitful dialogues. And I think as we engage and we talk on the subject, we should understand that the vulnerability does exist. The persistent conflict in places like we're seeing increases the risk of extremism happening, but we need to focus on unemployment, and we need to focus on a bit more dialogue in a way that is productive in communities like that.
So what stood for me, you said see something, say something. We have to strengthen that. But how do we strengthen it without strengthening the relationship between the police and the people? Because for the people to be able to report accurately what they see and to report it quickly and efficiently, then there needs to be a very open, very fluid channel between the police and the people. Do we have that?
Well, before I even come to that, just to add on to what he said,
Sure.
It's important to establish, that violent extremism, conflict and violent extremism are inextricably tied, such that you cannot take out one and then leave one. So you want to look at it like an iceberg. What is visible to you is the tip of it, and the tip of it that we're seeing right now are young men taking up arms, taking up guns, going to churches, walking up to malls, shooting people and killing them. That is the tip of what we're seeing.
There's a whole intricate bottom.
There's a whole bottom hidden under the sea that, gets people to do whatever that they're doing. And all these conditions that are hidden beneath the sea that I'm talking about are prevalent, in some Ghanaian communities, are prevalent in that community that, we just saw there. You want to ask yourself, which conditions are we talking about? You talked about unemployment, which is true. You want to look at the West African coastal states, for instance. You want to look at Mali. You want to look at Togo. You want to look at Benin. You want to look at Burkina Faso. What are the conditions that are prevalent in these communities that are, influencing and helping this insurgent group go about the activities? There are issues of resentment amongst the people. There are issues of corruption and all of that. In Ghana, you can say that the economic situation that we are facing currently is something that these extremists can actually prey on and actually exploit the vulnerabilities of our people. You can talk about the secessionist groups that we've seen emerge in some part of the country, Western Togoland, for instance. These are people who are disenchanted about the system. They want to break away from Ghana because they feel things are not going well. They feel
they are not part of Ghana.
Exactly. They feel
they have been neglected.
The state itself is exploiting its resources, but they are not benefiting from it. These are the things that these extremists, would want to capitalize and would love to prey on and recruit these people, to join them. So I think that it's important for us to stem the tide of conflicts that we're seeing in the northern parts of our country, especially. It's important because if we do not stem it, if we do not stop it, then these insurgent groups would come in, take advantage of the people, take advantage of those who are disenchanted, recruit them into their fold, and then use them, against us. We're talking about systems that are available to report whatever that we see. I saw on social media, see something, say something. I think that 999.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw some friends of mine on social media complaining that, that number has been activated to call to report, but it looks the case that if you make that call, it's not going through. The National Security Ministry released a statement saying that about 10,000 prank calls so far, recorded after the activation.
Doesn't that show you how many people are unemployed? It's exactly what we're talking about. Who's going to sit down and be prank calling if they're employed?
I think what we need to do is to strengthen the collaborations, between communities and the police and our security agencies, because whatever it will take, when these people will settle, they'll first of all go to these communities. They'll go to the deprived communities where people are living below the poverty line. Go there first of all and radicalize the people. It's important if we have that collaboration between residents, community people, and the police. Then if anyone moves in to try and radicalize them against the state, then they'll be in a position to report. But how then? It also boils down to confidence building, winning the confidence, of the people. Because trust me, if the people do not believe in the police, there's no way they would entrust their security or they'll put their security in the hands of the police. They'll feel more secure in the hands of the insurgents and the terrorists to provide them with protection. So I think it's a lot that we need to do to win the confidence of the people, first of all. And then in terms of logistics, we also need to do more in terms of logistic support to our security agencies to be able to make it possible for people with information to report. I've had situations where whistleblowers have been give information to police, and then at the end of the day, their cover is blown. If you have a situation like that, the people will not trust you to give information. So I think we need to work on all of these things, and then we should be good.
Right. Thank you so much, Maxwell. Let me go to the line where we've been joined by Shadrach. Shadrach, good evening. Thank you for joining us. If you can hear me, please unmute. We've been waiting for you.
Sorry, good evening.
Yeah, that's okay. Shadrach, quickly, what's your take on the general state of security in Ghana, especially looking at conflicts in the north and the recent threat of violent extremism?
Well, I mean, what the first speakers have said would not be overemphasized. But the last speaker, pardon me, I could not join earlier, so I didn't get the name.
That's
but,
okay.
Look at a situation like what happened in Nkuranza, where people were having issues with the policemen there, and then you watch the visuals that was running through the media space, and then you see the guns pointed not as though it was being used as a crowd dispersement strategy, but it looked like it was actually targeted at particular people to hurt or maybe, for want of a better word, kill them. I'm sure that wasn't the intention. But then, in a case like this, I don't think the people would want to trust the police service or the force workers to protect them. Because currently we are having issues with terrorism, And then we would have all, for every ordinary Ghanaian, the force workers, especially with the police, are the very first people we would want to see or call to come to our aid. So if already the people who would call for protection are actually becoming more so like our enemies, then how do we even measure the level of protection we as a people have currently? I was once in Togo, and crossing the border from Ghana to Togo, you would go through lots of strict measures to enter Togo, the kind of questions you will be asked. You can take more than 2-3 hours just to enter Togo. But coming back from Togo to Ghana, believe you me, it's like the people there, the immigration or custom officers do not even care. You have people who were busily painting their lips, people who were busily eating, people who were busily engaged in different conversations. So it's now that we keep saying, oh, our borders are tight, we are prepared, everyone is protected, we beefed up security at the various land borders and other parts of the country. If I am a terrorist and then I want to enter Ghana, and mind you, the countries around us have had their fair share of terrorist attacks already. So if I want to come through Togo and I get to the border, and this is what people are doing, it's even easy because, like I was saying, with my experience entry, nobody even checked me. Like when I was entering Togo, coming back to Ghana, everyone, we just pass. You go in and then you come. Everyone, it was just go and come. No one was checking you. So you live in Accra and then you think, oh, we've been told that our borders are protected, everything is up. But you get there and then the reality hits you in the States and you realize what we are reading or seeing in the media space coming from people playing their politics is different from what is on the ground. So personally, I feel our security level as a nation is to measure will be below 50%.
Right. Thank you, Shadrach. And I just wanted to add that usually the threat of violent extremism does not come through major entry points. They work better through the weak links. And where are the weak links in Ghana? The small towns, the border towns, the places that are neglected, the places that nobody is keeping an eye on. That's where they come through. Then they start by creating some instability over there. Now, earlier, I was saying this whole unemployment thing, when there is nothing to live for, then it's very easy to get people to die for a particular reason. They do not care about dying. They do not care about attacking their fellow countrymen because they feel like they have been neglected by their fellow countrymen. They do not feel part of the country or whatever national cake is being shared. And so they've already developed some resentment already. And it's very easy to convince such a person to do something very radical, to do something extreme, or do something against their country, because it doesn't take much to convince them to turn against the country that they believe has turned against them. But let's move on quickly to the flood situations that we have witnessed all week. It's hard to appreciate the rainy season when it comes with so much devastation. And earlier in the week, we had some guests here. One thing that stood out for me was one of the guests said, God is not going to stop the rains because we're not ready. So just because we are not ready to prevent the wreckage that comes with the rains does not mean nature is going to halt the rains for Ghana. Ghana has to prepare for the rains. But what we have seen is that consistently every year, flooding occurs. And I'm tired of reporting about floods every year. Somebody captured it very interestingly on Facebook, and he said, Ghana celebrates annual flood festival. And so initially when I read, I'm like, what's this guy about? But then I got it, it has become a norm for us every year. And then everybody is going around talking about it. People are trying to fight and prevent the problems that arise. And then we are running to help the people who have been affected But by the end of the year and the next year, it starts all over again, the same problems, the same approaches. Our approaches have not even been fine-tuned, they have not become proactive. It's just the same old basic reactions. But what are we doing to stem the problem where it starts from? There was also some demolitions, I think. But let me go back to Shadrach, who covered some of the floods. But I'll come back to you, Maxwell. I know you also covered some of them in the Kaswa area. But Maxwell, what have you seen out there in your coverage of these floods? And how do you think we can best nip it?
Well, like everyone said, I'm sure Maxwell, like myself, is tired of filing flat stories or putting flat stories in their archives, because it looks like every year we would have to go back to the same script, to the same stories, and they keep reoccurring. You do a story and then you can you do a story and then you can tell that I have done this story before at the same place. The last time there was a meeting by the YMCA in Adabraka where they engaged all stakeholders, Queen Mothers, the Ghana Police Service, National Council, everyone, just to help attack the flood. So I just thought I should tell them that we are wasting our time. Why do we sit here to talk about flood when, sincerely speaking, every one of us know how to possibly avert this perennial issue? People wake up, once the rains are gone and then everywhere is dried up, we tend to forget that about a month or two ago, people were turning their homes, or their homes were literally turned into swimming pools or seas. Kofi Kinata said last week that in party. And he was right, because once the rains are in, everyone will have to find a way of swimming out. So you once you see the clouds gathering, you just put on your swimming costume, awaiting to take your, get your turn to also swim. But personally, I think it starts from the top to the bottom. Every one of us have a role to play in curbing this issue of perennial flooding. Yesterday, for instance, just around this whole Atumota Forest acquisition issue, I had to interview the Ni Oduikwao family. And then the family had mentioned that, Shadrach, are you aware the whole of Jolo is a receptacle? No one is supposed to live in Jolo. It's supposed to hold all the water, running water that comes from Ebri, Madina during the rainy season. And now everyone, the whole place, Jolo, is sold out. I'm not sure you will get a place to put your barrel, talk less of holding flood water. So if Jolo, the whole of Jolo, is supposed to be a receptacle, and it has eventually turned into a residential area, where do you expect flood water to be housed? Let me put it that way, to be housed. And let's look at the Odo. Every time we keep saying we have invested so and so million cedis or dollars in dredging the Odo river. Once the river is dredged, everything is leaved just at the banks or close to the Odo river, and then it goes back into the drain. So how then do we go back? Personally, I feel people only take interest in going to see whichever authorities involved, get funds, make it look like they are working, and then they fatten their pockets to the detriment of the people. We have assembly members who are giving portions of land in their various assemblies or constituencies, giving out lands to people to ply various forms of trade, when they are very much aware that these lands are waterways, they are marshy areas. They are even putting obstructions on drains. I've had a personal experience with a particular municipal assembly. I would not want to mention names, but we went out and then they sought to demolish structures on waterways, and then people who have encroached other lands that were supposed to be saved for holding volumes of water. And you could, behind the cameras, you could hear the kind of conversations going on, because it looks like the very person who has come to demolish the structure was the same person who took money from whoever encroached on the land to allow him or her permit to bathe there.
Corruption.
And the next morning, you expect me to pull my microphone, come and stand there for you to tell me, oh, we are putting up measures to curb the flood, and then we are doing A and we are doing B. When you know, if you are being truthful to yourself, you know you are lying through the teeth. You are actually the problem. If you are putting your feet on the ground to see through that whichever building or structure is on a waterway must be taken off, I'm sure we wouldn't be coming back to the issue of perennial flooding and carrying people's cars away. And people might be unlucky. Once they lose their lives, that is it. If I have lost a property, maybe along the line I would work to buy whichever one I lost, I'll replace it. But if someone loses his or her life, how do you replace that life? So I think every one of us, sincerely speaking, from the top to the bottom, every one of us knows how to curb this issue of flooding. Every one of us.
That's a mouthful over there, and we'll break it down a little bit. But we also know that earlier in the week, the president told MMDs to demolish structures in waterways. I mean, Shadrach was just saying some of these people who have been sent to do the demolition are the same people who enabled the building of these structures. So how do we go about it over there? There are also a lot of these people who, instead of protecting those lands, are grabbing those lands. But let's take a listen to the president's speech and come back to the discussion.
It's obvious from recent events that more needs to be done to deal with the situation permanently. And as has been rightly stated by the hard-working Minister for Works and Housing, the Honorable Francis Asenso-Boakye, Member of Parliament for Bantama, in his address of today, government will continue to work towards the day when Ghanaians, especially those in Accra, will live in calm and tranquility through the rainy season. Metropolitan, municipal, and district chief assemblies have been charged to ensure the obstructions to the free flow of water, as well as developments along waterways, are removed immediately. MMDAs are also to ensure the strict adherence of developers to the planning laws of our country and sanction staff who have issued permits for structures to be built on waterways to serve as a deterrent to others who seek to engage in such acts.
That was President Akufo-Addo. Yao, do you think this is going to work? Would this be successful? Would MMDs actually go out there and pull down these structures that are part of the problem, not the entire problem, but they're part of the problem? A lot of it is also city planning, but that also comes back to this. Will this be achieved, or will we come back here next year and talk about pulling down these structures all over again?
If I were a betting man, I would bet that we'll be here next year talking about this. And in as much as I hate to say that, I think that the flood issue just, to a large extent, tells a lot about us as a people. It's so telling of both our aptitude and our attitude in general, how we either approach things in terms of looking at it and talking about it at best and doing nothing about it, or just attempt to solve it with the symptoms and not really going to the root of the problems. Of course, I mean, flooding, most of us covering it are even talking about recent time, let's say 5-10 years. This goes way back for 60-something years. Accra has been flooding for over 60 years. I saw a video of Jerry in the early 90s. I've seen stories in the Daily Graphic pointing back to the 60s and the 70s, even when the population was such a small number in Accra. Now, the other side of the conversation is if you put the flood in the structures, which is in waterway, and you flip it to the other side, we're still talking about housing deficit of about 1.7 million housing units. And so even with all the houses in waterways, with the increasing population, and a lot of the population, median age at 21, there's a lot, 1 out of every 2 Ghanaian is less than 21 years, which means they don't already have a house. At best, their father's house. And so if you think that the houses in Accra and the population is going to decrease, as a matter of fact, we are likely to increase housing units in the next 20 to 10 years. Now, the question is, how do we solve this? I mean, the legalities are clear. If permits are issued and permits are issued by the state, then you can't come and claim that you gave me permit, now you're coming to demolish my house without cause or without compensation. And so the legalities of this would be, and I've seen cases where properties were destroyed and people went to court and had valid compensations. Because if the state permits you to, and the state comes back and says, oh, I'm not an engineer, I don't know where is a waterway, and that is why there are planners in institute. That's why the metropolitan and the districts have planning officers. I mean, to the extent that we should enforce the laws on the planning officers.
In fact, I don't mean to even cut you, but there's a question here that says, shouldn't they be penalized?
They should be penalized.
They
should. And I think that that's, for me, that's the turning of the conversation. Yes, we may pool and incur some cost and compensation.
Cost,
but the bottom line is the officers who issued this, you know, are the very people who come and say, and there's flood and the buildings are, I mean, we've seen enough evidence of the same officers who are the same people taking money to issue, being the same people. And the question is, what happens to them? If we get beyond the court, and that is neither a legal issue or a question of planning, it's a question of whether we have the temerity, whether we have the courage in culture and politics to enforce it on our friends and family. But beyond that, the flood conversation, I mean, we're talking about the order. I think that we really move beyond Accra. Kumasi has started flooding.
Northern region is flooding.
I mean, so there are many, so we sometimes limit the conversation to Accra. Places that did not used to flood 5 years ago in Accra are flooding now. Cities that did not used to flood are flooding now. And so I think that we need to take the conversation way out of just the usual conversation. Let's get the technocrat, let's get the architect, let's get the planners, let's get the people who know this, and let's take it away from the politicians, and let's say, do we need to plan new cities? I mean, when Kwame Nkrumah built Tema, who knew that a few years will come down the line where it's full? But we're all clustering around here. There is no mobility, there is no access, so everybody is coming to Accra. And so we need to think about planning the country a bit more. Fortunately, if you move beyond Accra, there are still huge lands undeveloped all the way in between major towns. And so it's come of time where we need to think about of course, it will be expensive, but the cost of not doing that will leave us talking about this every year. Because if we don't do something significant, I can bet that next year we will be on the same table talking about flooding.
You know, I was going to come to you with the flood thing, but I feel like we've exhausted that particular subject. But then we also have the AU Day to discuss. And I really want to hear from you how the AU touches you. Do you feel like a part of the African Union? Do you think the African Union has outlived its purpose? Because Wednesday was AU Day. We spoke with young people who had no idea what the AU was all about. It seems like some Nkrumah's concept. What do you think of when you think of the AU?
Well, I don't really have pleasant words to describe the AU. No. I'll try as much as possible to make it, to make it nice a little bit. I think since the establishment of the AU in 1963, I mean, and the change into AU, I think the most significant thing that it has been able to do as an organization is just the change in its name. We've not really seen anything, useful. The few things that I'll say are useful with AU, we can talk about a new partnership for African development. We can talk about NEPAD, which I see some, giant strides, being made in that direction. We can talk about the African peer review mechanism, which is also another good thing that we can talk about.
But if you look at school feeding, said it was an AU initiative, yes.
But really, if you look at the issues that go to the hearts of the people, really, the African Union has failed in that regard. And one thing we can talk about is the issue of conflict within the continent. When the AU celebrated its, then OAU celebrated its 50th anniversary. It made an ambitious, it put up an ambitious target for itself. It said that we're going to make sure to end conflict within the African region by 2020.
No guns.
That, you know, silence the guns. You know, silencing the guns. 2020. The Lusaka roadmap I'm talking about, adopted in 2016. And they came out with 54 concrete points that they were going to use to silence the guns.
Are the guns silent?
You want to ask yourself, are the guns silent now? No, they're not silent.
The conflict is shut up in the
exactly,
last 2
to the
years.
extent that West African coastal states, which were not previously affected by violent extremism, like Ghana, we are now having to take steps to address issues like that, which is just the evidence glaring for anybody to see that the African Union has failed. I mean, you look at West Africa, for instance, right now, Burkina Faso, I think yesterday, it was Thursday, just this week, 50 people killed in a village just like that. Our neighbor, Togo, Togo until recent times hadn't really experienced any sort of, extremism, Just this May, 8 soldiers were killed. Burkina Faso, since they were targeted in 2015, now, Islamic State, and all of that, all these terrorist groups are targeting them. You want to ask yourself, having been, and these groups actually taking advantage of the conflict situations in these countries. They want to ask yourself, have we been able to silence the guns? No, we've not been able to silence the guns. And if I'm to do an honest assessment of the African Union, these are the indicators that I'm going to use. These are the things that I'm going to use to judge the African Union to see if really they've done enough. You want to ask yourself about the issues of coup. In recent times, we've had to talk a lot about the issues of coup. The Economic Community of West African States really has done a little bit, but I think has been a lame duck in the process. Not really taking concrete steps to address the issues, such that we have coups happening. African Union. Sometimes you don't even hear anything about African Union on these matters. And you ask yourself, if you have a regional body like the African Union, what are they doing to solve all of these situations? You hear colonial masters like, France, very vociferous and talking tough, talking tough down on the people they previously colonized. And the African Union, which is supposed to be a regional body, really is not saying much and just quiet. Like, is it what do they call it? Is it Simpapini or something like that?
But I mean, I hear you, but I disagree on some points.
Tell us what you disagree with in 1 minute.
Yes, I think baseline, they could have done better, but failure is not the word.
Okay. What has the success been?
But I've been nice. I've been nice after some of the successes.
Yes, 2 things. But for
on
me,
what basis?
African Free Trade Continental Agreement.
After?
And you see, it's the biggest economic integration attempt. It's an attempt.
Right.
It took 50 years for that to be passed in 2013. The whole agenda is towards 2063, where Africa is supposed to be a single nation by 2063. 100 years from where Nkrumah said it. In the beginning, that was the Nkrumah idea. The other part of the people thought that we should integrate in sort of not a country, but in terms of sort of individual countries running an organization, which then became the Organization of African States.
Yeah.
But in terms of real integration of our economics, it brings our combined GDP to some 1.3 trillion US dollars.
But
you see, I can understand that. They could have absolutely done better. Okay. But
so is the AFCFT up and running?
It started, but just recently, is
it a theoretical start?
No,
or
it's
a practical
not.
start?
There's a PAPS, which is a Pan-African Payment System, which has been launched. The PAPS is supposed to be the gateway to that integration, where I can sit here and pay somebody in Nigeria.
1 minute. I said 1 minute.
So I agree with you. I agree with you in part that the journey has been.
But wants to.
He doesn't agree. 30 seconds.
Okay.
You talk about after and all the policies you're putting in place, but you want to ask yourself, how does the average market woman in Mokola connect to we sit in big hotels. Right?
No, this is something we should actually follow up on.
Very crucial decisions that affect ordinary people.
No, I agree.
But they really do not feel a part of it.
This is actually a question I'll target to the AFCFTA. How does the market woman benefit from AFCFTA? Let me come to you, Shadrach. You want to say something? I'm sure you regret not being in studio.
Master was, I don't know, maybe lawyer might think because we are in the same space, I'm supporting Maxwell. But that was what I was coming to. He was talking about the GDP, and I always say this: we will be referring to the technicalities and all the theoretical things that have been put on paper. But I'm going to Sudu market, I'm going to Makola market. How is that woman benefiting from the said increase or significant rise in the group, whole GDP of the African continent? At this point, it is Ghana. So what has Ghana, I don't even remember the last time I heard of the AU, talk less of they putting up anything significant for any of the, well, I don't know if they've done it for any other country, but here in Ghana. Because even when this is a mother body who even finds it difficult or is found wanting when it comes to matters around security and then peace in the member states. So personally, maybe Atada found nice words for the
right.
But,
thank you. Thank you, Shadrach. No more. We have run out of time. So, gentlemen, I'm very grateful for your inputs. Maxwell Agbagba, he's a journalist from Multimedia. We're very grateful for your time and for your contributions. Shadrach, thank you so much. Shadrach's a journalist from Metro TV. And Yao Sompa is a lawyer. And my name is Nwong Falong. And I work here with MX24 Television. On behalf of the entire production team, we want to thank you for spending 1 hour of your evening with us. Good evening.
Okay, sweet, but girl, your love is sweeter. My hair, you day for my hair. I know fit to reset.
The gossip, maybe I was born faithful until the first female suddenly broke a vow.
I feel like you don't be my baby.
What
if I broke, now my business. I'ma show you, you go buy to.
Yeah, back home, and you know, I hire a permanent fan. Yeah, free cocoa, bingo, yeah, bad things go from a side.
No hands. Still I can't believe it. You know what I mean? I was young, what you expect from me? It is what it is.
Sponsored by Malta Guinness. Malta Guinness, feel the goodness. Refreshing. Hello. Oh, thank you. Hey guys, it is your girl Miss Drew, your hostess with the mostest. I'm back again with yet another episode of Moments. Today I'm out here all the way in Okosombo at the beautiful Bridge View. I'm so excited. I brought my girls here. They come all the way from Germany. I've come to show them what the good life is like in Ghana. And of course, you already know when it comes to best locations, I have got you covered. So why don't you watch, sit tight, get comfortable, and let me show you our experience, the moment out here in Bridge View. Let's go. Are you guys ready? Yeah, ready. Let's go. Oh, wow.
Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to Bridgeview Resort.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending your afternoon with us.
Yes.
Kindly follow me.
enjoy yourselves.
Thank
Get
you so
comfortable.
much.
And I'll send a waiter to your table right away.
Amazing. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
You guys ready? About to turn up? Yes. Okay, we ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Fruity lemonade, 100 CDs.
Yes, oh my goodness. Adley, we are live, so let's talk about beautiful things. Oh my god, wow! Oh, thank you. Yes! I'm taking a photo.